Hello Pre-Algebra students and Pre-Algebra parents, if you're listening, and any Math 6 students who are interested in what we're doing in Pre-Algebra. Take a look at some problems for solving equations with integers. We're still basically going with one step. This time we might up the ante here and eventually get to 2 steps, but I have 3 problems here, I have 3 problems on the other slide. We'll take a look at some. So first one, I have negative 32 equals negative 4 times something. So negative 32 is equal to negative 4 times something. Now I want to, there's nothing to simplify here. I can't combine like terms, no distributive property, things of that nature. So I want to evaluate for 1x, not negative 4x's. So I need to get rid of this negative 4. To get rid of this negative 4, it says multiply by the variable. I want to get rid of it, so I'm going to do the inverse, which is divide. I see here I have a negative divided by a negative. Remember, when signs are the same, the answer is positive. I want to bring the x over here. These cancel out. X is equal to 8. Now if I substitute that back in, 8 times negative 4, we have a positive times a negative. Signs are opposite, so my answer will be negative. 8 times 4 is negative 32. Answer checks, so we're good to go here. Alright, next one. I have x divided by negative 8 is equal to 5. Okay, first thing I notice right here, if my answer is going to be positive, that means this value for x has to be a negative, because a negative divided by negative gives me a positive. So I want to evaluate for 1x, not an eighth of an x or negative eighth of an x. So doing that, I am going to multiply both sides by negative 8. Remember, I could just make any whole number into a fraction by simply putting it over 1. That eliminates that, so I'm left with x is equal to, that becomes 5 times a negative 8. That gives me a negative 40. If I substitute that back in up here, negative 40 divided by negative 8, negative divided by negative gives me a positive, so I have 5. So negative 40 does work. This one's a little trickier. Okay, I'm going to slide it down here a little bit. So I have t minus negative 12 is equal to negative 9. Now if I did know the value of t, I would say, hey, wait, I'm subtracting this integer, so I really say, hey, it's t plus the opposite of negative 12, which is 12, equals negative 9. So there is my equation. If you want to call it simplifying that, I've just said, hey, when I subtract an integer, remember, I'm actually adding the opposite of the second integer. The first one stays the same. So now I have t plus 12 is equal to negative 9. Now, I just want to evaluate for 1t, so I want to isolate that t, get it by itself, so I'm going to subtract 12 from both sides. I'm left with t is equal to, now if I want to write that, I have negative 9 minus 12. Or I can write that as negative 9 plus the opposite of 12, which is a negative 12, and I get negative 21. If I substitute that back in, I have negative 21 minus a negative 12 is equal to negative 9. I want to take negative 21, add the opposite of the second number, so add the opposite of negative 12, which is 12. Signs are opposite, so instead of adding, what I really do is subtract. I owe you $21, I just paid you back 12. I still owe you $9. Alright, next 3, a little bit easier. I start with the hard ones first. You might notice I have n plus 12 equals 20. Well, I want to isolate that n, so I'll subtract 12 from both sides. This goes back to the very beginning of chapter 1. N is equal to 8. Substitute 8 back in. 8 plus 12 equals 20. Good. A minus 9 equals 22. I want to isolate the a by itself, so I'll add 9 to both sides. I have a is equal to 9 plus 22 is 31. If I substitute back in, 31 minus 9 gives me 22. Check. Okay, negative 8 times something is equal to negative 64. Negative 8x is equal to negative 64. I want to get rid of this coefficient. So to get rid of it, I do the inverse of dividing or multiplying by negative 8. I'll divide by negative 8. That cancels out. So now I got to figure out what 1x is equal to. Divide this side by negative 8. 64 divided by 8 gives me 8, and because they're both negatives, my answer is positive. Substitute back in. Negative 8 times 8 gives me 64. Negative 64, sorry. And here's a problem that I want you to try to think about over the evening, and if you want to, post a comment to the blog, see if you figure out how many yards did they gain on the third play. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you. It's here. Take a look, and I wish you well with it, and post your comment to the blog. Who knows, you might get a little reward for it. Take care.